What do you do when you've had a great day? Maybe some people would call it a mountaintop experience. You've been feeling wonderful. Life is going well. You're on top of the world. Yay! Good feelings. All the good juju is going on. And then all of a sudden, you're down in a valley. And a lot of times that'll happen right on the backside of a really, really cool, great, wonderful experience. You'll have this really massive low. And what does that do for your marriage? And what do you do during those times? What do you do when the journey is too much for you?
Today's word is stupendous.
You need some encouragement.
We really love listening to you guys.
You need some inspiration.
Love your podcast. Wonderfully inspiring as I think about my marriage.
The Stupendous Marriage Encouragement.
You're listening to the Stupendous Marriage Show.
Hey there, I am Stu Gray. This is the Stupendous Marriage Show. Lisa has jury duty this week, and she is unexcited about that. So I'm recording the Stupendous Marriage Show all by my lonesome, so bear with me. But I've got some thoughts, and I'd love to share them with you, so thanks for being here. I really, really appreciate that. Last week at church, we had an amazing conference. Our church does this conference every year, and they bring in some amazing speakers, and they have wonderful worship. And it's just 3 or 4 days of just intense, awesome, just thoughts and presence of God and just loving on people and hanging out and good food and great music and just it's just like, whoa, it's awesome. And this happened last week, 3-4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And by Sunday afternoon, we're driving home from downtown. We had gotten lunch, and I just got hit. I felt horrible, and I'm literally driving home. We have a 20-minute drive home from church, and all these thoughts going through my head. It's like, you don't have the money to pay the bills for this month. And what are you going to do about XYZ at work? And what about your son and something he hasn't done at school and he needs to do that and he's got to get it done before tomorrow. And how are you going to encourage him to do that? He hasn't done homework in 4 days. You've been at a conference and, you're silly for thinking this. And what about the podcast? You haven't done anything with that. And are you building your business? And are you doing? And so these negative thoughts are piling and piling and piling and piling up in my head. And by the time I got home, I was just, bleh. It was not good at all. And Lisa called me on it. She's like, what is wrong with you? What changed? It's like, I don't know. I've got to go to the store. That's all I could think of because I didn't want her trying to analyze me in that moment. And she's too good at that. So I wanted to be out of that environment. So I wanted to go walk around a little bit, be by myself. And, thankfully I have friends I can call. And I talked to a friend of mine. He's like, I told him everything that had happened about conference and church. And we had a good conversation about that. And I talked to him about, my son and the thing that was going on with his schoolwork and some funny stuff that happened in 8th grade, you know what I mean? So all of these thoughts were coming out, spilling out to my friend on the phone. And he's like, man, you were just hit with all sorts of things all at the same time. And it seems like you had a mountaintop experience and now you're down in the valley. And I thought about that for a second and I was like, oh my gosh, one of the teachers at conference talked about this very thing. And you may have heard of Pastor Banning Liebscher, but he talked about the story of Elijah and how Elijah is this great prophet in the Old Testament, and he does all these awesome things for God. And in 1 Kings 17, he's doing all this stuff, like he's calling down the fire of the Lord, and these other prophets who believe in other gods, they can't get anything to happen. And so Elijah builds this altar to God, and then they pour water all over it, and water, and then even with all the water on the altar, this fire comes down and wipes it out. He's also the prophet who said, hey, it's not going to rain for a while. So there was a drought in the land. And then all of a sudden he felt like God said it was going to rain and he had the faith for that. And you probably know these stories. So that happens in 1 Kings 17. In 1 Kings 18, the very next chapter, all this good stuff has gone on, right? And I just want to read this. This is crazy to me. Right after that, He fled for his life. In 1 Kings 19, it said, Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. That's verse 3. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there. And while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, he came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Lord, he said. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors. Then he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once an angel touched him and said, Get up and eat. He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then lay down again. Verse 7. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. A lot of times that happens. You'll have really, really great days. You'll have really great emotions. You'll be really connected to your spouse. You'll be really productive. Wonderful things will happen. And then there is this valley experience that happens on the backside of it. And I think it happens to everybody on some levels. I mean, some of us who have dealt with, depression and emotions, and I don't know, I'm an emotional guy, and I think I go high, really high, and really low. And so I think it hits me in a way that it might not hit you, but I think we all deal with it on some level. And what Pastor Banning talked about and what my friend said to me on Sunday, he's like, have you eaten? Are you going to take a nap? Don't underestimate the power of a snack and a nap. Literally, my friend said that to me. He's like, have you eaten anything? Did you eat lunch? I was like, yeah, I ate lunch. We had good lunch, but I'm hungry again. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon that we were talking. And yeah, I'm hungry again. He's like, why don't you go eat? I was like, that's why I'm sitting here in the parking lot of the store. I'm going in, I'm going shopping. I will get some food. I will get a snack. He said, good. He's like, you're going to nap? I'm like, man, that's part of getting older. That's crazy. I'm in my mid-40s now. I'm not a 20-year-old, and I noticed that a lot with our church conference this year around especially. Man, there are some amazingly talented young 20-somethings that are just killing it, kicking butt and taking names. And guess what? I'm not one of them. I am not 20 years old anymore, and I have to take a nap. I don't want to embrace that for myself. There's this mental image that I am still stuck as a 20-something, just out of college man. And I've got to wrap my brain around the fact that my body doesn't do that anymore. My mind doesn't function like that anymore. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a provider for my family. And I have responsibilities in my life that I didn't have when I was a 20-something. And that's good. That is a good thing. And changing my perspective on that. But knowing the self-care is also part of that going forward. So when you're having an argument, have you had really good moments with your spouse or your family recently, and then you go down into this slump? What do? Do you take time for yourself? There's a verse here at 1 Kings 19, and I kind of brushed by it. It's verse 3. It said, when he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there. So he went off by himself. Now, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. So maybe you do need time by yourself, but you also need someone to kind of give you perspective. I needed my friend on the phone giving me better perspective, someone who'd been through what I was going through and could offer some insight into my situation. So maybe not leaving someone out of the conversation, but bringing someone else, not your spouse necessarily, right then in the difficult moment. But you do need to have that conversation with your spouse. I was able to talk with Lisa, and I told her everything that was going on with me. I was like, look, I called my buddy. We talked for 30 minutes. I was sitting in the parking lot. That's why it took me so long at the store. And, he gave me some perspective, and he actually asked me about, did I eat? And have I taken a nap? And then he gave me some insight about school and 8th grade and being a parent and all this sort of stuff. It was very helpful. And so making sure that you take the time to do some self-care, and in that valley moment, not making really big decisions, but maybe talking to someone outside of your spouse. And have you eaten? Have you taken a nap? I know I need to. And it's crazy that I have to think about that sort of stuff now, but I do. So that's my quick little thought for this Stupendous Marriage show. Don't underestimate the power of a snack and a nap. And who are you talking to when you're down in the dumps? Before I go, I want to remind you that we normally take emails, and we love hearing from you, and we answer your marriage emails at onair@stupendousmarriage.com. When you send us an email, you can stay anonymous. We do not pass along names of anybody who emails us. We want to honor you and keep you confidential and anonymous. Anything works as a question for the show. onair@stupendousmarriage.com. Hopefully Lisa will be done with jury duty by next week. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. See you. Bye.